Hey guys, Ryan Coyle here from Connect.ca Realty. So excited to be back with you for another market update. I apologize, I haven't been around for a while. I was able to take some time off over the summer and enjoy myself. I feel like I've been working for a really long time, so it was nice to have a bit of time off and travel. I'm bringing an update here for you guys. I think a well-needed one. We're going to look at the August data, and we'll look at month-over-month data. And then, what we saw in the summer felt like a normal seasonal real estate market, perhaps even more seasonal because COVID for the first time was behind us and people were enjoying themselves for perhaps the first time in a few years, going on holidays and spending time with family and not necessarily looking for real estate. So it did seem like a regular seasonal market. Obviously, there are other variables, which I'll touch on today. I won't have enough time to touch on everything I know you guys want to hear about. Inflation, mortgage rates, development cancellations, immigration, supply and demand, short-term, long-term outlooks on the market. I am hosting a webinar where you can register below for this coming Monday, September 26th. And it'll be at 7 p.m. And I will go into more depth in terms of where I see the market today and the short-term and long-term outlook for the market as well. So let's jump in with the current stats. Condo resale market update. So we're not talking about pre-construction condos. We're talking about the resale market in the GTA, not specifically downtown Toronto. On my webinar, I will kind of dissect the different areas of the GTA, the Toronto, because there are markets within markets, sub-markets as we call them. So GTA condo resale market update. Resale condominium market sales totaled 1,507 units in August, rising 10% from July month over month and falling 41% from a year ago. So definitely down from a year ago. Now, last summer was an anomaly. I've never seen such a busy market. Obviously, there are some market things happening in the market, micro and macroeconomic, which is bringing down sales, but it's also seasonal as well. So I don't think last August was a seasonal real estate market, and I do feel like this summer was more seasonal. Now, the positive thing in that is that it's rising month over month. So we're not going into a spiral down in terms of sales volume. We're seeing month over month growth, and it's always important to look at year over year, but also month over month. New listings declined to a 7-month low in August, another positive indicator, down 14% month over month and down 12% year over year. So, the big fear in a market where interest rates are going up and the economy may or may not be in a recession, close to recession, is that there's going to be too many listings and not enough sales. So when we can see month over month growth in sales and month over month decline in listings, we're still dealing with potentially a balanced market, which I'll get into. As a result, the ratio of sales to new listings improved to a 5-month high of 48% in August, rising to within a balanced range of 45 to 60%, but still well below the 10-year average of 61%. Now, one thing I want to talk about with that stat is that listings are made up of property listings, not necessarily properties. Okay. So the same property could be relisted 2, 3, 4 times. And we are seeing that in this market. Positively, we are seeing properties that aren't getting what they want. They are taking them off the market and not relisting them. So that is good because there's no panic and it's not creating an oversaturated market. But we are seeing some people obviously relist. They're maybe listing at April's prices and they are realistic. They relist at a lower price. So there are still a lot of relistings, and that, that average of 61% is probably more realistically, I don't know, I'm just guessing 30 or 40%, but which is happening is a lot more usual. What is happening is a lot more than usual. So it is very difficult to use this data essentially. Active listings at month end fell 12% from July, with supply of 3 months in line with the long-term historical average. So 3 months of supply. Anything below 3 months is a seller's market. Anything above 3 months is a buyer's market. So we're still, kind of teetering between a seller's market, believe it or not, in the condo market specifically. I think the low-rise market is different, which we'll get into in more detail on my webinar on Monday, September 26th. But the low-rise market, which saw more growth during COVID, is experiencing more of a price pressure kind of environment versus condos that were a little bit more sustained during the COVID pandemic. Average GTA condo sales, resale prices declined 1.1% month over month to 711,000, representing the smallest monthly price decline over the past 5 months. Now, I think what's really important to look at in this data is that the GTA condo price is made up of Mississauga, Richmond Hill, different markets. When you look at the downtown Toronto market, which I'll get into more detail again later, is that it actually saw month over month growth, and it's experiencing the least amount of year over year decline, or from the peak of the market decline, than all the other markets, which is really typical when you see in a recession. The downtown urban core real estate markets tend to stay stronger on the price side, but also on the rental side, they actually increase. Compared to March, average prices were down 12.1% compared to a year ago. Average prices were still up 3.1%. 905 regional prices have corrected by more than City of Toronto prices over the past 5 years, the past 5 months, 13.7% versus 11.4%, but recorded relatively stronger growth over the past year, 6% versus 2.6%. Now, that was part of the mass exodus of Toronto. A lot of that demand went to the outskirts, the suburbs, and because condos are more affordable than low rise, most of that demand went to condos, and it drove price appreciation in the 905 a lot more aggressively and faster than Toronto. Now, that is why I still think Toronto is the best opportunity, because it is more of that gradual price appreciation, and it didn't overshoot like a lot of the other submarkets did. So I think people who bought even at the peak in February or March in Toronto aren't going to experience huge losses or price declines like they will in the 905 or other submarkets. Now, looking specifically at Toronto, total condo apartment sales in Q2 2021 were 8,775. In Q2 2022, 5,687. So there's a decline of 35% in terms of sales volumes. Now, last year was a very, very strong year. That is still below the 10-year average. Now, average selling price, which is good news, is 769,000. So the average for the GTA, as I mentioned, was 711,000. For Toronto, 769,999 versus 686,498 versus Q2 2021. So that's a 12.2% price growth, Q2 2022 over Q2 2021. Looking at total residential transactions, so condos, low rise, everything, we're looking at year over year decline of 34.2%. So that's from August 2022 compared to August 2021. Now, looking at seasonally adjusted, so August sales volume compared to August 2022 compared to July 2022, we actually saw 11.1% increase. So that, again, is positive that we're not in a downward spiral. There is still demand. A lot of it is waiting on the sidelines, but we're still seeing price growth, be it nominal, and we're still seeing buyers. So this is an interesting market, and it's something worth watching very closely. And another reason why, it's very difficult to time a bottom. And I think there are a lot of opportunities right now, and we don't know if the opportunities will get better. But I can also get into eventually, especially on our webinar, why pre-construction is a really good opportunity right now, because you're not dealing with high mortgage rates. Now, looking at the sales and average price by home types in Toronto, you've got the GTA. Detached homes year over year are down 1.7% in 416, down 3.7% in 905 for a total of 3.1%. In semi-detached, they're down 7.3 in 416, 1.1 in 905. Townhouses, they're up 0.4 in 416 and up 3.7 in 905. And in condos, 2.16% in the 416 and 6% in the 905. And again, it was up a lot higher in the 905. That price year over year price appreciation is actually shrinking as that market is being heavier impacted than the 416 market. Now, maybe the resale market report wasn't as optimistic as everyone would want it to be. I do want to point out that I think that given the current state of lending and macro and microeconomic news and what people are reading in the media, this is an extremely resilient market, and it is holding very strong. And one thing that people have to understand when there's massive, kind of forecasting of price declines or experiencing price declines, they're typically talking from the peak of the market. And that's why I like looking at year over year and month over month data, because if the peak went from January to February from 10% year over year to 25% year over year, which it did in just 1 or 2 months, many of the markets, the sub markets in the GTA saw anywhere from single digit to double digit growth. And that's really where the market pulled back from the peak of the market. So some people will get caught buying at the higher price, but realistically, it's time in the market. It's not timing the market. And these people are homeowners that live in their home for the most part. They're going to stay there for years, and they're not going to lose money because it's going to come back in probably a relatively short period of time. And home ownership always does outperform, and home ownership always does go up over the long term. All right, well, let's talk about the condo rental market update. And specifically, I'm talking about condos in the GTA. Average rents rose sharply again during August, up 3.3% month over month growth. Very good. In the past 3 months since May, rents have risen by 11.4%, or by an average of $287 per month, seeing a tremendous amount of growth and tightening in the rental market. At a record high of $2,806, condominium rents increased 19.5% year over year, $458 per month, maintaining double-digit annual growth for the 10th straight month. A 41% share of leases transacted for higher than their ask during August. Of these leases transacted, rents exceeded asking rents by an average of $132 per month. So there are multiple offers on leases, very, very common right now. And what's happening is people are overbidding than what listing agents and their clients and landlords are actually asking. So tenants are fighting over properties and outbidding and driving the price of rents up. The average time on market fell to a record low of 8 days, and inventory remained at a record low of 0.3 months of supply, signaling further upside for rents in the near term. So what that means is if all of the listings were to stay static, there are no new listings, there would only be 0.3 months of supply before it was all absorbed. It's a record number. We've been saying this for a really long time. There is a supply issue of housing in the GTA, especially in Toronto. And, these numbers that I just talked about are GTA numbers. The numbers are, again, more staggering for Toronto. Jobs are coming back. People want to live back downtown. So the rental market is booming. And where, mortgage rates are increasing, we're in a really good environment. And I like to always say that downtown prime real estate is recession proof, because when rates do go up and affordability becomes tighter, as an investor, your tenants aren't on the market buying, and that drives up rents. So Toronto is a really, big supply issue, and it's going to continue to produce either further price pressure on rents or on prices, and often both at the same time, but one or the other, because people need somewhere to live, and there aren't a lot of places to live in Toronto. And I'm going to go into great detail on that on our webinar.